You're entering Corsi Nation.
It's Jerome Corsi, and today it's Wednesday. It's April 23rd, 2025. As you can see, I'm traveling. I'm back into West Palm and meeting with some of the Trump team, and we're getting a lot done. Although I want to point out that there's a lot of dissatisfaction with especially the Justice Department. That again, I've been attacking Pam Bondi, saying where are we going with this voter integrity issue? You can follow us in God's Five Stones, G-O-D, no apostrophe S, 5, you spell out 5, F-I-V-E, and Stones, STONES.com, and see that we're really pressing this issue, that right now we've found algorithms in all these databases, that the article I wrote with General Flynn, which we can refer to in just a second, where the whole issue of the Trump assigning to the intelligence agencies, and I'll put it here, Chris, for you in the chat so you can pick it up and show it on the screen. But the intelligence agencies need to get involved because, first of all, Pam Bondi and Department of Justice are not getting any indictments. They're actually, not seemingly to be in charge, certainly not the way we wanted them to be. There's the article in chat with General Flynn. And General Flynn and I have been talking lately, and we're going to do much more, I think, on the voter integrity issue. This is something that is it's got to be handled, because if we don't get these algorithms and the computers altogether out of the voting system, we don't go to paper ballots, the Democrats are just going to steal the midterm elections. And there's a lot of talk about that right now. And if Democrats steal the midterm elections, then they'll just spend the last 2 years of Trump's second term in office trying to impeach him. We still have the resistance going on all through the government. And it's going to take the Trump people a while to realize that firing 10% of the federal government's not enough. They've got to fire 90% of it. These bureaucrats will resist. They don't, first of all, they're not working. They're not coming into the office. Nobody's making them yet come into the office. They're not accountable to anyone. They make up their own rules. And if they are told that they're going to have to come into line with a Trump agenda, they just say no. They don't say anything. They just do what they want to do and enforce the rules they want to enforce. And right now, the Justice Department is doing nothing. We've got a clip here with Glenn Beck talking to Steve Bannon yesterday, and I want to play it. It's short clip, and but it goes right to the point. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and play that?
And that's Congress. And they're sitting around like they did after they won the Tea Party. They're going to be responsible for losing this whole thing. They've got to move.
What do you say about the investigations, the deep state, everything we know about Brennan? Okay, talk about that. We only got a couple of minutes. Our audience, the one thing they are furious about is...
I'm pissed.
And Pam and Cash are as good as you get. What's the problem? Your audience the same way, they're steamed.
Oh, yeah. You can do an awful lot of stuff, but until you start putting bad guys in jail, I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
And a sense of urgency. It's not like we have this forever.
No.
I mean, if Hakeem Jeffries wins in 18 months, which is not outside the possibility to raise $2 billion,
done.
They're going to impeach Trump.
We're done. So where is the DOJ? Okay, I know Cash quite well. I believe Cash. I don't know Pam. Okay, that I'm not throwing dispersions on her, but something's not right. Why aren't you unleashing? Is it the deep state has them by the throat? What is it? But it's got to be solved. You have no...
Is that a message that you think I don't want to get into your private conversation with the president, but is that something you would highlight? That?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You think there needs to be a sense of urgency about this?
What does any of it mean?
Why is Congress taking so much time off right now? Traditional 2 weeks of vacations or 2 weeks back to consider where they don't have town halls?
I don't know. I mean, it is...
Because collectively, they're good people. But as a body...
They're horrible.
They're horrible.
Absolutely horrible. I honestly, Steve, I can't tell you. I am at a loss for DOJ, and I'm at a loss for Congress. And I'm at a loss on Donald Trump, man. Why aren't you using the bully pulpit to go after your own here? Eat them. Eat them. Tell them, oh, we're watching you. The whole country is watching you. Get to work. Do these things now. Have you seen the clock on the wall and the numbers spinning?
We're burning daylight.
Burning.
I think that's in general the feeling of the country. Where's the investigation of the Russian collusion? You've got this judge who was I could never remember his name, Broadbast. Chris, you can find his name exactly, but the judge who's saying that we have to give rights to Venezuelan terrorist thugs.
Boasberg.
I'll tell you. Boasberg is the same judge who the FBI went to in Operation Crossfire Hurricane to get the FISA court approval to go after Carter Page and Papadopoulos based on the lying Steele dossier. It's tragic that he's still there. And where is Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, Dan Bongino saying, okay, we're going to go after Boasberg, however his name is. Tell me his name again. This guy.
It's Boasberg. That's his last name.
Boasberg.
It's forgettable.
Well, I mean, the guy is such a jerk, and there's increasing editorials I'm finding of people commenting about the Roberts Court. Because the Roberts Court, this issue that they're not. The history of Roberts is going to be very, very chaotic, and Roberts is one of the worst Supreme Court justices in my lifetime. I mean, I'm tremendously disappointed in him. And he went along with Obamacare, and now he's going along with the rights that these illegal aliens, criminal gangs, MS gangs, he's defending them and illegal immigrants. When the president has enormous powers under Article 2 of the Constitution. President Trump declares that these are enemies of the United States in the country. He has a right to remove them, and no court has a right to say he doesn't. So Donald Trump's again got to start exercising the powers of the presidency more effectively. That was the whole point of saying that the intelligence agencies are going to be investigating the election fraud. Again, if this was a penetration of the computers, the state boards, and also the other computers are used to tally votes, and what Tulsi Gabbard said at the cabinet meeting a couple of weeks ago was that this is a national security emergency. Well, if so, let's get some action here. Let's get these states to have to start cleaning up their databases. In fact, doing them over again, as President Trump has ordered, with having voter IDs, having proof of citizenship, and going to paper ballots. No state has done a thing. Nothing. They're just all saying, well, do something. We're not going to do anything, Mr. President. We'll go to court and block you. That's the whole deal. We'll reorganize the entire federal courts. Introduce a bill to completely reorganize them. Then what's anybody going to do? Trump has the right, if he wants to introduce a bill and say district courts cannot make decisions beyond their district. Their presidential power is limited. They can't make these national blockages. You have to stop exporting illegal immigrants. You have to stop. You can't cut off federal money. The president's powers under Article 2 are enormous. And Donald Trump's got to realize that and start utilizing them and telling the courts, forget it. The courts were to be reorganized, which is the president's power with Congress, because the only constitutionally constituted court is the Supreme Court. Okay, now if we go that direction, then all the current judges could lose their jobs if Congress voted in the reorganization plan. And Trump could get rid of all these Soros judges in one fell swoop. That's what we need to do. We need not to tolerate this lawfare, which will just so slowly eat away the Trump administration by day by day by day, drip, drip, drip torture. And these judges aren't going to stop. I think Harvard ought to lose its money. We ought to close down Columbia University altogether. these universities are just producing Hamas-oriented anti-Semite students who hate America. Why do we need the universities? That's what they're teaching. We're funding them for this. What's the purpose? Okay, and also now Elon Musk is saying that he's going to cut back his time in Doge in May. Of course, around the country, they're keying all the Tesla cars. They're attacking Tesla's showroom in New York City. The left is insane. But where is the Department of Justice arresting these people? Where's the Department of Justice saying, okay, you attacked Tesla, we're coming after you? We don't have that kind of determination in the backbone of Pam Bondi. She wants to get along. She wants to be in Fox News. I'm not sure what her problem is. She likes DeSantis. She's not loyal to Trump. I don't know what she doesn't understand the Justice Department. She isn't up to the job. And then Kash Patel, what's he doing? I mean, he wrote a book about these people saying they were all criminals, and now he's in a position to go after them, and he's doing nothing about it. Okay, it's time that this come to an end. And I think I'm joining with all the other conservative commentators who are just fed up with this. Okay, let's switch gears. A couple of other topics. We've been running the last couple of days a story about this deep water port in Chile. I'm going to make an effort today to get this to Rubio, because he's got to understand that if China gets this Copia Port E, and Chris, you can show some of the articles we've been writing about this, and because I think this is a critical issue. Here's the one on the deep water port. Okay, I'll give this to you over here in the chat. This port is a key infrastructure piece for China to complete its Belt and Road Initiative into South America. It is a deep water port that from Chile is on the Pacific, cuts off about 15 days of travel going to China, and gives China access to the Argentina for all of its agricultural goods coming through 2 mountain passes through the Andes. Trucks can carry the goods to the ships they can sell to China. Todd Callender, who's my friend and co-author, has the rights to develop this port in investment funds, an insurance investment fund he runs out of Barbados. Now, if this is available and China's got a MOU, a memorandum of understanding to purchase it, Rubio again is asleep not to realize that Trump has got a global vision here, which is the vision of the future, which goes back to the Monroe Doctrine. The Western Hemisphere is our sphere of influence. So Trump is saying Greenland ought to be a protectorate. Canada ought to be a 51st state. Okay, that extends the reach of the United States all the way up to the Arctic. Why is that important? Because Russia and China are militarizing the Arctic as they're militarizing space. Okay, so if we abandon this port and give China, which already has a port in Peru, and the Panama Canal controlled by China, China will control from the Panama Canal down through the tip of Argentina, the sea routes to the Pacific. It's strategically important. If we get this port, we're reaching all the way from the Arctic to the Antarctic. And the poles are going to become important strategically in the next 25 years. Trump's got the vision of our security being the Western Hemisphere. Western Europe is less and less important. Western Europe is a complete mess right now. And Trump, I think, is moving fast to try for a settlement in the Ukraine war. Trump said he's getting uninterested. He's getting bored with it. Why? Because Zelensky is acting up. Zelensky is a criminal, doing cocaine like in massive amounts. I'm sure he's stolen millions and millions of dollars. And now he's saying we want to perpetuate the war because he's going to get help from Great Britain and Germany and France. Well, France could not support an army, I guarantee you, in Ukraine that's capable of fighting with the Russians. French military could probably do a better job with a transgender Eiffel Tower parade than they could doing a military exercise or fighting a war in Ukraine. Chris, I'd like you to come on and talk about this because Zelensky's talking about getting together now with Trump again at the funeral of the Pope. And I'm convinced that it'll just be another opportunity for Zelensky to act up. And I don't know why Trump would give him more time with the media where he could try to make his points about how bad Trump is.
Interesting point, because it would be coincidental and very public if Zelensky and Trump met together around when the Pope around the Pope's funeral, if that happens, if they wind up doing that sort of thing. The problem is, they really should just set one up where they can get one-on-one time. None of this incidental stuff, none of this photo op garbage. This has to be a big meeting. And I do understand Donald Trump was trying to put this together. He had some agreements going on. He brought both sides to the table. And every time Zelensky seems to pull the rug out from under any kind of agreement. It looks like a lot of the globalist left, the European nations are behind this. Maybe they want to keep this war going. Maybe they want to keep Ukraine as sort of a pawn when it comes to their own conflicts with Vladimir Putin and Russia, and keep the war over there. Not a good thing.
Well, this is the key issue. We're at a key point right now where Zelensky and Ukraine oligarchs want to keep the war going because they like the money and they're laundering money. And Russia is, I think, reaching the point where Russia could easily take Kiev. It certainly could nuke Kiev out of existence in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's nice we're pronouncing it Kiev again.
Not
Kiev, like
Kiev,
during the Biden era.
The Biden era. These Biden people want to change the language altogether. The whole men and women weren't supposed to be men and women. You're supposed to have your pronouns. And now they're crying about all the DEI that are going and all the cuts that Doge is making. Well, of course they're crying, because what the Democrats did is they took deficit spending of trillions of dollars, put it in the agencies. The agencies funded these non-governmental organizations who were all Democratic front groups to pass the money on to Black Lives Matter, where the two women who headed it bought mansions with millions of dollars, okay, and with all government money. And taxpayers paid for Black Lives Matters while they destroyed our cities. Okay, then the Democrats get all this money through the Treasury, when the conservative movement struggles to get any money at all. And this is the unfair advantage the Democrats have had with money. And if cut off the money, if we cut off the money, there's going to be no war in Ukraine. Cut off the money, there's going to be no NATO. Cut off the money, there's going to be no United Nations. World Trade Organization is going to struggle without our membership. Okay, and Trump is going back to an America First policy where all these years of free trade are getting negated, and it can't happen fast enough for me, so we can bring the jobs back to the United States. Chris?
Well, again, on the money, as far as all that's concerned, you have the left screaming and yelling, but this was only, and interestingly enough, this was only 16 years after they were yelling at us. Well, change is good. Change scares people. You guys don't want change. This is the change we all wanted, though.
Hope and change. Remember, Obama, hope and change.
Right. But they accused the other side of fearing change, and we said, wait a minute. This Obamacare spending bill, you're shoving it down our throats. It's going to increase the deficit, probably double or triple it. Well, look what's happened. Now you're looking at right now, these same people are afraid of any kind of change. They're fearful of it because the religion they've been following, the state, if you will. Remember, in the absence of faith in a God, they need faith in something, whether it be celebrity, a man, or the state. A lot of them follow this. This is their religion now, and they think their beliefs are kind of getting shattered right and left here. Watching their own people waste their money and denying it at the same time. Watching the news media lie straight to your face, telling you an MS-13 gang member from another country who came here illegally is a Maryland family man.
Yeah.
It just gets worse. I mean, they even like we just said, they even gaslighted people into pronouncing Kiev just to make the President Biden look like he's mentally there.
Well, and so now AOC is going to be the presidential candidate. Well, that's what they're saying.
Oh.
And they're competing between her and Pete Buttigieg, or
Uh-huh.
Buttigieg. You know, I mean, a guy's last name is Butt. I mean, come on.
It's pretty bad. It's like those. It's like the Yankees during those lean years of the '60s when they were just bringing up anybody. At that point, when they were
Well,
before Steinbrenner came in, they
yeah, I
just
mean,
had, there's no direction.
there's no direction. There's no, the left is completely right now vulnerable. And this is a time when Donald Trump and the Department of Justice ought to be pressing. Okay, now Doge has done a great job of reducing, exposing at least the amount of waste and the amount of corruption in the government. But at the same time, you know, President Trump yesterday backed off on saying he wanted to fire Powell as the head of the Fed, and the stock market rallied. Well, gold is today trading at it's trading at $3,327. That's solidly into the 3,000 range. It broke $3,500, and I think it's going to head towards $4,000 an ounce. Silver's at $32 an ounce, almost 33. And so, I'm constantly urging people to look at what we have from Swiss America, because you need to get self-directed IRAs. Stock market today was up yesterday. It's 39,000 points yesterday when it closed, Dow Jones Industrial Average. But get a copy of this free book, how the coming global crash will create a historic gold rush. Europe is about bankrupt and will be bankrupt coming into the fall when energy prices again escalate. So the amount of sovereign debt is at all-time high. The amount of real estate that is underwater, commercial real estate, because the people are not going back to the cities. They're not going back to their jobs in central business district. Who would want to? These democratic city hellholes are filled with homelessness, filth in the streets. Many of the mainstream stores, the flagship stores that have propped up cities like San Francisco, have left, closed up shop. Union Square is like ghost town. Okay, so this coming global tragedy, and get this book, 1-800-519-6268. Call Swiss America, 1-800-519-6268. I'm imploring you to do it, because if you don't get some of your money into gold and silver, you're just going to see a constant erosion now of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And if you think the mutual funds you're invested in care about you, you're wrong. You say, oh, well, you can switch from the stock fund to a bond fund. The bonds are tanking too, because with the United States so much in debt, it's harder and harder to sell these treasury bonds without higher and higher interest. So we're constantly in an economic quandary here, which looks like a crash is imminent. Okay, and Donald Trump buoys it up one day by saying he's not going to fire Powell. The market revives a bit. But still, the impact of the tariffs is going to disrupt international trade. It's going to be harmful and detrimental to many of these countries that have been living off the United States with our jobs going overseas. These jobs are going to come back to the United States, and capital is coming back to the United States. Why manufacture cars in Mexico or China and then pay a U.S. tariff to get them back into the country? So U.S. car makers, U.S. makers of chips, manufacturing in general is coming back to the United States. Okay, but again, if you become a customer of Swiss America, you can also take advantage of this one-time Walking Liberty $50 offer. We had 250 of these coins for really what they're worth in silver. One-time offer for new customers. And that gives you some silver in actual coins. When you get a self-directed IRA, the structure will be set up by Swiss America, and then you get a depository account where your gold and silver are held in Delaware. That's all set up by Swiss America. And you get a Lloyd's of London insurance guarantee on the value of your gold and silver. That it's really there. You really own the gold and silver. And just fill out the forms on our website, the Swiss America forms. Also, look at My Vital C. We're going to be doing a lot more on longevity. I've been taking this carbon 60 in olive oil now for 4 years. And it has longevity principles. It's right there. I have a book written there as well, which is Live Longer and Better. It's available on the My Vital C website. This My Vital C is also good, the carbon 60 for hair products, skin products. I use them every day, and also for cats and dogs who love it. The pets just love this carbon 60. Take a look at these products, try them out. I think you're going to find that they are products that really do boost you in terms of your energy, your ability to sleep, your longevity. There's the book, Live Longer and Better, which Chris is showing you on the website. We're going to be doing much more on longevity. And I think I'm going to ramp up my telemedicine companies again this year. Okay, let's continue with the news. I want to cover more on the Vatican. I think what's happening in the Vatican is that I'm convinced that the powers that be just decided that it was time for Pope Francis to go, and they killed him. Yeah, it's too bizarre how he was in the hospital. He met with J.D. Vance, our vice president, and then that night or the next day he dies. Okay, now I know he was sick, but the problem with Pope Francis is he was LGBT woke. And I think now Catholic Church, about 80% of the cardinals we're going to meet in this conclave were picked by Pope Francis. The real Pope, I think, should be Archbishop Vigano. He was continuing to write strongly about the corruption of the Catholic Church and the corruption of Bergoglio. The whole idea of the Catholic Church going LGBT is, to me, the progression of Vatican II, which brought into the church the neo-Marxists and basically the satanic acceptance of all the sexual bizarre nature of the transgender agenda, the acceptance of the synodal movement. These synods are meetings with bishops, with the faithful in the Catholic Church, where they were all organized to recognize these marginal minorities, which meant recognize the transgenders and give them a place within the church. Well, you don't bring Satan into the church. You don't say we are all kumbaya and anything you want to do with sex is okay. Sex is for procreation. It's basically creation of life and the raising of moral children. Well, as far as Pope Francis is concerned, the Catholic Church has become essentially they're a combination homosexual and pedophiles, group of men who, again, like the deep state, protecting their privileges. I do think the church is going to consider that maybe having another LGBT pope while Donald Trump is in office may not be a good idea. They may move to a more conservative pope this time around to ease things up. If you read my book, which is the truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy, I talk about Bezmenov, who was a communist that defected in the 50s. And he showed how the communists accelerate, cause a crisis, then they have a period of normalization before they go to the next crisis. Well, again, that's what we're experiencing. So a period of normalization, I think, from the hard left may be in order, except the U.S. Congress has not gotten the message. I think the Communist Party has become a Democrat, communist, traitorous party. There's the book. Chris is showing it on the screen, The Truth About Neo-Marxism, Cultural Maoism, and Anarchy. And I discuss at length Bezmenov and the gradualism, the incrementalism with which the left works. They never give up. They never feel like they've lost. They always just reorganize and come back to gain more power, drive God further out of our lives, and exert more totalitarian control over everything we do. The left is extremely dangerous these days, and we're at a point where we cannot afford future wars. Wars are no longer fightable because they can all turn into global thermonuclear conflict at any moment. Okay, I'm also pleased to see that President Trump is not enthusiastic about attacking Iran right now. If we put the economic pressure on Iran, we would do much better. And Trump has been negotiating with Iran. Well, again, this is a step to limit or end their nuclear program, which Obama, John Kerry, Biden, they were sending money to Iran, Obama with airplanes full of cash. I mean, this again has got to stop. And we've got to understand that these are enemies of the United States and the world, and they're very dangerous. So now you're finding that Israel is bringing in these bulldozers that are automatic. They have no driver, massive bulldozers. They're going to demolish Gaza, and they're going to kill Hamas. And Donald Trump has given the green light to do that. So I think the next thing is a plan to relocate the Gazans out of Palestine, and Libya has proposed a solution. We're going to be proposing a special envoy, Philip Escaravage, who has been in Libya, and we're going to recommend him to be a special envoy. He's already gotten the two governments to agree to come have a reconciliation, a unity government, take Gazans, and to work with Donald Trump. So I think we're making great strides here if, in fact, we take advantage of the historic opportunity to break the back of Iran, which is the terror master. And again, it's all about money. Without money, Iran cannot support the terrorists it's been supporting. Okay, now a couple of points I also want to make. Klaus Schwab is now resigned from the World Economic Forum, and there's financial scandals. He was mixing his money with the World Economic Forum money. He had this $30 million mansion that they were utilizing, he and his wife, with $20 million of renovations, all paid for by the World Economic Forum. That's what always these oligarchs destroy the middle class. They steal the money and they build themselves dachas in the countryside, which are their mansions, while the people starve. Klaus Schwab also had his junior employees go draw money from the ATM and give it to him when he was traveling so he could get massages in his hotel room. Well, that sounds like that was all about sex. And so, he's now in disgrace and his board has fired him. He'll probably fight back. But again, this in-room massages is not going to be particularly good on his reputation. And Klaus Schwab should have paid for his own massages if he wanted them. The whole idea here is corruption and evil. These are the people who wanted to be our masters. They wanted to be dominating the world economic conditions so that only the oligarchs benefited while the main people went broke. Chris, why don't you comment on this? This is, I always like it when you put up this picture. Who is this?
It's Dr. Evil from the Austin Powers franchise. Dr. Evil, played by Mike Myers, as well as the Austin Powers. But he does have a striking resemblance to not
Klaus
only
Schwab.
Klaus Schwab and classic Bond villains. That's Klaus Schwab in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah, with his little. Is that a cat or is that a clay cat?
That's Mr. Bigglesworth, his cat that's usually white and furry. Again, another throwback to a Bond villain. There was kind of an explosion and he lost all his hair. So Mr. Bigglesworth was bald for a while.
A Dr. No or one of those?
Yeah, I'm sure that was what it was. A lot of people ask me who my favorite James Bond was. I always say Peter Sellers.
That's a good one. Peter Sellers was the Pink Panther movies are so classic.
I even saw the one with Sergeant Slay. Anyway, that's the third one I think it was.
That's the third one. Yeah, that's okay. So let's do a couple more stories and then we'll start to wrap up. But I'm finding that just one or two more. The European Union is absolutely now in disarray. If they think they can fight, it's the economics are going to destroy Europe. Okay, now this interested me. Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin, is now going to hold hearings on the Building 7 that came down on 9/11 was a controlled demolition. Okay, so we're starting to get some truth here about all these lies that have been told. We have now the Kennedy release of the Kennedy papers, I think, further showed that Lee Harvey Oswald was much more closely tied with the CIA. CIA, of course, denied it at the time. We've had nothing but lies, 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 and lies. Some of these lies are now beginning to be exposed. Okay, and I also saw, the whole issue here of the AfD in Germany, which is the Conservative Party, is now being for the first time as the most popular party, as efforts to ban it escalate. Of course, the left can only ban, it can only censor, it can only be negative, it can only be, I mean, that whole picture sticks in my mind of the Democrats in Congress listening to President Trump in the joint presentation to Congress he gave right after he took office for the second term. Well, they sat there with, they're all looking angry, women wearing their pink pussy suits or their white Nancy Pelosi dresses, and supporting now the terrorists we're exporting, the MS-13 terrorists. He's become the new poster child for the Democrats. And they loved Elon Musk when it was Tesla, because Tesla was green energy. The green energies also died. DEI is now dead, DIE. ESG, I think, is on the way out. We're finding that all these democratic ideas are exposed as complete nonsense. And that book I wrote about neo-Marxism and cultural Maoism explains how the Democratic Party and this whole woke is only for destruction. That's all it can do. It can't create, it can only destroy. Okay, so I'm very hopeful that Donald Trump is going to get things in order. We're just at the first 100 days. And from here on, I think the possibility of massive change for the good is here. And if we get forward with some more leadership, with Donald Trump exerting his Article 2 powers, including as commander-in-chief, we'll have a much better next 100 days. So I think the MAGA constituents are demanding it, and I believe Donald Trump will be responsive. Chris, any final comments before we wrap up?
Oh, yes. Again, we'd like to see something going on with these investigations. Maybe it is. Dan Bongino was saying, I guess he was cryptically saying, "Oh, hold on." I'm paraphrasing basically. Hold on, where things are happening behind the scenes. We just can't keep announcing them. And here's something to think about with that. And again, I'm siding with you on where are the investigations, but I do want to play devil's advocate here. Every time the Republicans try to do something, the left, the mainstream media will stop at nothing to thwart them. Again, you're looking at the AfD in Germany; they're being banned. You see what's going on in the West. The globalists are going to pull every ounce of lawfare or media warfare
The way to stop them is to take their money away and prosecute them.
But they were also saying they were preparing us for 3 or 4 months before the inauguration. Donald Trump's going to go after his enemies. Donald Trump's going to do this. So they have to kind of be a little careful to not make it look like revenge, but make it look like retribution for actual crimes.
Well, whatever they portray it as, they're going to lie.
Yes, they will.
They're going to resist. They're going to be out there with disinformation and all the rest that they do.
Well, they're not resisting, complying.
All the narratives that come out of the intelligence agencies who are fighting for their survival. Because when we find out the CIA has been running the drug trade, the CIA has been running the fentanyl trade in the border, the CIA has been running the child sex labor trade. And by the way, what the stories we need to develop, and I probably will write something about this in the next few days, is, when Pope Francis died, the Department of Justice really ought to be going after all the Honduras deals that McCarrick put together under the Biden administration, where we gave money to Honduras, and basically Honduras was involved in the fentanyl trade, the drug trade, the cartels, and sex trafficking, especially children. So the Vatican has been deep into all the corruption of the drug trade and the child trade, and the Vatican doesn't seem to mind pedophilia. Look at all the priest scandals, which have just about destroyed the Catholic Church in the United States. And in the meantime, we've got kumbaya masses, which have nothing to do with the traditional Catholic liturgy. And we're making Jesus into a liberation theology hero of the downtrodden. Democrats don't give a hoot about immigrants. They're not doing anything for black people. They never did. These are just their exploited downtrodden on which they can make people feel guilty. And if guilt is the only motivation to be a Democrat and to be satanic and abandoning God and all the other agenda, people got to wake up and say no. So I think people are catching on to it, Chris.
I hope so. I hope they are. And I think many have.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Jerome Corsi. We're going to support Donald Trump and continue to pray for his success. And I'm sure he's going to be listening very carefully to all the comments being made about Department of Justice and where's the action. We'll be watching it very closely. We're back on CorsiNation.com, and on X you can follow me at Corsi Jerome 1. Also, JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. We're doing Substacks almost every day, and I think you'll find that what we're producing here is a commentary that's encouraging Donald Trump to take firm action, continue the firm MAGA action, because the Democrats right now are on the run. They're leadershipless. They're looking back to the past, Obama nostalgia, while Obama and his wife are having problems, or whomever she is. At any rate, it's everything normal, situations all messed up, but in the end, I believe God always wins. God will win here too. Our job is to, I believe, embrace the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14, get on our knees and ask God to forgive us for letting the world get this insane. God will then hear our prayer and heal our land. This is going to take divine intervention. And if we avoid World War III and continue to avoid World War III, because Donald Trump is using the right negotiation strategy to make Zelensky realize the next step is he gets no money and he'll be left all alone out in the cold. And that's no way to be when facing his own oligarchs for whom he can no longer deliver, and facing Putin, who's determined to keep his territorial gains. Dr. Jerome Corsi, thank you for joining us. CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. God bless.